Commemoration of Persian poet Farvardin Attar. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. The 25th of Farvardin of the Iranian calendar is commemorated every year as the day of the famous 13th century Persian poet Farid Attar Neishaburi, who was martyred by the Mongol marauders of Genghis Khan during their barbaric invasion of Khorasan and the massacre of often entire populations of towns and cities. Stay with us for a special feature on this great Gnostic, whose works remain alive to this day despite the passing of 8 centuries. Born in northeastern Iran in 540 AH around 1145 AD and named Fariduddin by his father, who was a chemist and perfumer, as the surname Attar suggests, he received an excellent education in various fields. He practiced the profession of pharmacy and personally attended to a very large number of patients while composing poetry under the pen name Attar. At the same time, he started writing books in versified Persian such as Mosibat-Namah, Ilahi-Namah, and Khosrow-Namah. The people he treated used to confide their troubles in him, and he affected him deeply to the extent that he eventually left his profession and traveled widely to Baghdad, Basra, Kufa, Mecca, Medina, Damascus, Khorasan, and the cities of northern India, meeting with Sufi leaders before returning to his hometown as a person well versed in mysticism and Gnostics. The thoughts, as is evident in Attar's works, reflect the evolution of the Sufi movement. The starting point is the idea of the soul's awaited release from the physical body and return its source in the other metaphysical world can be experienced during the present life in mystic union attainable through inward purification. Although Attar wrote the prose work Tazkerat-al-Awliya on the life of Gnostics and Mystics, the finest mirror of his thoughts is the long poetical work at-Tayr, or the Discourse of the Birds. In this work, the birds led by Hoopoe go in search of their king, Seymour, or legendary phoenix. Their quest takes them through 7 valleys, in the first of which 100 difficulties assail them. They undergo many trials as they try to free themselves of what is precious to them in order to change their state. Once successful, they ask for a refreshing drink to dull the effects of belief and unbelief on their lives. In the second valley, the birds give up reason for love and with 1,000 hearts to sacrifice continue their quest for discovering the Seymour. The third valley confounds the birds, especially when they discover that their worldly knowledge has become completely useless and their understanding has become ambivalent. There are different ways of crossing this valley, and all birds do not fly alike. Understanding can be arrived at variously. Some have found the mihrab or the prayer niche of the mosque, others the idol. The fourth valley is introduced as the valley of detachment, that is, detachment from desire to possess and the wish to discover. The birds begin to feel that they have become part of a universe that is detached from their physical reality. In their new world, the planets, as minute as sparks of dust and elephants, are not distinguishable from ants. It is not until they enter the fifth valley that they realize that unity and multiplicity are the same. And as they have become entities in a vacuum with no sense of eternity, they realize that the one and only God is beyond multiplicity and eternity. Stepping into the sixth valley, the birds become astonished at the beauty of the beloved. Experiencing extreme sadness and dejection, they feel that they know nothing and understand nothing. They're not even aware of themselves. Only 30 birds reach the abode of the Seymour or the phoenix. But there is no phoenix anywhere to see. The chamberlain keeps them waiting for the phoenix long enough for the birds to realize that they themselves are the Seymour, that is, 30 birds, since in Persian, Si is 30 and Mour means bird. The seventh valley is the valley of deprivation, forgetfulness, dumbness, deafness, and death. The present and future lives of the 30 successful birds become shadows chased by the sun as they become absorbed in the sea of his existence. Attar is one of the most famous mystic poets of Iran. His works were the inspiration for the famous Gnostic and Persian poet Maulana Jalaluddin Balkhi Rumi and many other poets. Attar, along with Sanai Ghaznavi, had the greatest influences on Rumi, who has mentioned both of them with the highest esteem several times in his poetry. Attar inspired poets and mystics in the subcontinent as well as in Central Asia and Anatolia, where Persian language and Iranian culture were dominant. Later, his works began to be translated in European languages to the extent that he has received huge popularity among Western Orientalists as one of the most striking meteors in the eastern sky of mysticism. Many of these Orientalist works have been devoted to researching the works of Attar. From almost 200 years ago, Europeans tried to introduce Attar's work to the Western society. Sylvain de Sacy was one of the first European scholars in introducing Attar to the West. In 1816, he translated the poems of penname in Paris. The second translation of penname was brought out in Latin by Gabriel Gottlin in 1835 and published in Helsinki, Finland. Baron Erik translated the penname in Swedish language in 1929, followed by the translation of Attar's prose work Tazkerat-al-Awliya in 4 volumes during the period 1931 to 43. The famous English scholar A.J. Arbery translated Tazkirah of Attar into English under the title of Muslim Saints and Mystics. The Tazkerat-al-Awliya has also been translated into Turkish, Urdu, and several other languages, which are proof of the popularity of Fariduddin Attar's thoughts and poetry.